to this morning? Well, we had a pretty good turnout yesterday, so maybe we'll have some new faces trickle in that were here yesterday. I know several people said they would be back, so we'll see. But whether we have 2 people here or 200 people here, we're going to worship God the same, right? He's worthy. No matter how many of us there are, He's still worthy just the same. So we're going to just praise Him and sing out to Him. God, I just thank You for being our God. Thank You for bringing us all here safely this morning. Thank You for keeping everyone safe yesterday through all the storms, and for allowing the youth rally to happen even in spite of the storms that were around us. Just kind of the bad stuff went right around us and missed us, and we thank You for that, God, keeping everyone safe. We know that You love us, You care for us. We just want to sing out to You, to return that love back to You, and just show You how much You're worthy and how much we're thankful for You and everything that You give us. So I just pray that this worship would be music to Your ears. In Jesus' name. He is just coming. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of His wind and mercy. All of a sudden, I am unaware of His breath, you breathe your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. And you have been so, so good to me. I felt no word, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did. You have been so, so to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending love of God. Oh, it chases me down right till I'm found. I couldn't hurt it, I don't deserve it, till you give yourself away. We have a special treat from what I hear. So we're going to do our offering first. I'm going to pray over us, and then we'll have some people pass these baskets around. God, I thank you that we can actually call you Father, that we are your children, and you just bless us so much. That we just want to take this opportunity to give back some of what you've blessed us with. So I just pray over these funds. They're used to further your kingdom, and that we will make wise choices with what we do with this money, and that will just be a blessing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I got a couple of announcements real quick. We're back to just some basics. We don't have a whole lot going on. So this week we still have our 3 midweek things going on. We've got Tuesday night class at 7, youth on Wednesdays at 6:30, and then our men's meetings on Thursdays at 7. And still we're going to do the Saturday evening services at 6:30. So that's a new thing that we've added. So feel free to come on up here at 6:30. And that is not just a DLC thing. That is just a church-wide, bring anybody and everybody to participate kind of thing. So and I think that's everything I need to cover. So today I would like to welcome to the stage Ms. Brandis Wilson.
Yeah!
Good morning. Oh, look, I turned it on. Hold on. Gotta do something with this. How is everybody this morning? Okay, so it has been a hot minute since I've been up here. And so I'm looking like a little bit of a mess up here, but God's got this, right? That's what I've been told all morning. So that's what we're gonna roll with. So worship was awesome, right? Kitty brought it yesterday. I don't know, I hope everybody it looks like was here, but she totally nailed that vision that God gave her, and it was amazing. And I know that our family was blessed, and so kind of how I'm standing here. So I'm nervous. Soccer. Thank you. So let's just go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, I adore you. I'm thankful for who you are. I'm thankful for who you created each and every person in this room to be. I trust you, Father, that you have brought each and every person to this room on purpose. I know that you are speaking loud and clear to someone here in this room. And God, I pray that each and every one of us walks away today knowing that you are our creator, that we have purpose, that we have value, and that you love us. God the Father, I pray that my words are your words. I pray that your truth just spills out this morning the way that you have intended. I love you. I praise you. Amen. So, for some people that might not know me, my name is Brandis, and I used to be on staff here, and I love this place. When you walk in the door, can you deny that overwhelming presence of the Spirit that just takes over, and you just know that there's something? And worship always just comes on point and just gets me. Sometimes I'm like, how did Kitty know every song that I needed to hear? Chance, I'm sorry. He's bugging me. Huh? Sorry. Anyway, so it's great stuff. So I was on staff, and I came to this place where I kind of had to take a break. I just needed a minute. I'd gone through a whole lot up until that point, and I'd kind of just been going and going and going. And I got to this place where I realized that I needed to hear from God on my own. I needed to hear from God, not for what I was going to get to share with somebody, although I love getting to share his love, his truth, his mercy. I love getting to share that with people. It's just, I needed a minute to let him speak to me, to let him speak to my heart, for me to be reminded of who I am and what he created me for. So I took a little bit of time off, and at first, I'll just be honest, I was real lazy. You know how that feels, where you just want to sit. You just want to come to church and sit in a chair and not do anything, right? I don't know if I'm speaking to anybody on that, but it feels good. And so I did that, and I've kind of gone through that time period, and then all of a sudden, he starts waking something up in your spirit. He starts reminding you of who you are. He starts reminding you of the purpose that he has put inside of you that only he can put there. He created you with that purpose. And so when he starts to stir it up, there's no denying it. Now, I will admit that sometimes I'm pretty bratty, and so I get to this point where I'm like, well, you know, I get that and all, but I'm not real sure what you want me to do with that. And so I kind of went through this time period where I was just a brat. All of us, you know, if you have kids, you know what that feels like when they just want to sit and they cross their arms and they're like, well, I'm not doing what you're asking me to do because I don't want to do that. Right? I'm good at being that kid to him. So recently, he had really started stirring up some stuff, and I have the most amazing encouragement team always cheering me on. And so, yeah, I started getting to this place where I finally was like, all right, God, I'm ready to listen to you. I've been a wayward child way too long. I have ignored you. I've sat on the sidelines way too long, and I know it, and I'm tired of being disobedient to you. And so once I started doing that, he started overwhelming me a little too much. I was like, whoa, just kidding. I didn't mean that much. Dial it back just a little bit, please. But he doesn't. He knows what you're capable of. He knows what you can handle, and he knows what he expects of you. And so just like us as parents, what we have an expectation on our children, if he created us, then he has that exact same purpose and expectation that we have on our own children. He has that on us. So he doesn't let up. He doesn't relent. He doesn't give up on us, and he doesn't quit. And so finally, I started hearing and I started listening, and it got exciting. And I just wanted to start telling everybody. I just wanted to start talking about it all the time. I know my kids at some point are like, the car rides to and from school, sometimes they're like, really, can we just listen to the radio? Do we have to listen to what you read about this morning or whatever? But no, they don't get that privilege. So we talk about it, and it's great. So anyways, this week in particular has been kind of crazy. And it started last weekend. My kids have something going on every day. And it gets overwhelming, but it's fun. So all last week we had stuff going on, and I have a 13-year-old. I cannot believe that when I say that out loud. I have a 13-year-old, I have an 8-year-old, and I am so lucky that we are blending a family, and I get to have another 13-year-old. Any and all prayers accepted? They're both girls. And a 6-year-old. So we have busy lives because all kids have something going on, and everybody has something that's special and important, and we want to be a part of everything that we can. So this week has been kind of just real anxious. There's a lot going on. And so I kind of really just wanted to shut down because that's what I do. I have anxiety to the point that if I am somewhere, if I am doing something, and I am overwhelmed by anxiety, my mechanism to deal with that is to shut down, to quit, to go home, to put on my pajamas, to not do anything. Like, I don't want to deal with anything anymore. But when you have kids, in real life, you don't get to do that, no matter how much you want to. So, see? So anyways, this week I was like, finally it was Tuesday night, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to bed, I'm done, I can't do whatever other things I needed to do, so I'm going to bed. And that's when God turns on sometimes, and he said, remember how I will always meet you where you are. And I said, that is great, thank you for that. And I tried to roll over. And he said, tap, tap, tap on the shoulder, and he's like, I'm not done. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what does that mean anyways? And all of a sudden, it was like a movie reel. I'm like shown all of these things over the past year and a half of how he was always in every moment. You see, in Scripture it says, the promise multiple times where it says, God will not leave you and he will not forsake you. And I think we get so used to hearing that sometimes it's easy when we're praying for a friend or we're talking about something, we're like, well, God's with you. It's something that we just put out there, but what does that really mean? You see, when it says God is with you, that is physical. That is tangible. He is around you. He's in the things around you. He's there. God will not forsake you is spiritual. That means no matter what part of my journey I decided I wanted to sit on the bench, he sat there with me. That means whenever I was pouting, he was right there beside me, letting me pout. He never left me. He never forsake me because he created me with a purpose, on purpose. And so therefore, he knew that I was needing that time to sit on the bench and hear from him. Sometimes just have his arm around me, patting me, knowing that he was my father and knowing that he understood that I needed this time to heal, to grow, to listen so that I could move forward. So as he's talking that night while I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm a total night owl, so that's what happens. I'm like, oh, I'm going to bed at 11:50, and then God's like, oh, hey, wait, just a minute, let's talk. And so it's 11:50, and I'm trying to go to sleep, and he's showing me these things, and he's telling me, you know, I will meet you where you're at. Okay. I was like, you know what, that's good. I might write that down tomorrow. But he doesn't let up. And so he said, nope, you won't. Get up. I'm like, really? It's 11:50. And I was like, oh, I've got this step counter. Maybe I'll get a few more steps real quick before midnight. I was like, all right. So I get up, and I get my journal, and I start writing. And that's the thing. He won't give up on you. He doesn't stop. And he will meet you where you're at. So I just start journaling, and it just starts scribbling. And for me, whenever I start journaling like that, it makes no sense to me. But later when I look, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I had been so anxious this past week. I snapped at everybody. I didn't want to do things. I didn't do some things that I was supposed to do. Like I have friends asking me to do things, and I'm like, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. That's how I've dealt this whole week, and it overwhelmed me to this point that I was shutting down. And so when he says, I will meet you where you are, I was like, okay, let's talk, what does that mean? And he started reminding me of these places in the Bible when Elijah was running. Elijah was a man of God. He heard from God. He did what God asked. But at one time, Elijah was running from a woman. And he took off, and he finds himself in this cave. And God whispered, what are you doing here? God met him where he ran. God didn't let him go. He didn't let him escape what it was that God had a plan for. He met him exactly where he was at. So then I keep thinking, I'm like, okay, that's cool, because Elijah is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I just think he's a cool dude. So then I'm like, okay, all of a sudden God reminds me of another story, and it's the Samaritan woman. And if you want to flip over there, it's in John 4. There is something cool that stands out to me whenever I'm looking. I have all these markers and stuff in here. I'm sorry, guys. It takes me a minute. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Do y'all say that out loud whenever you're looking for something? I do. Anyway, so it talks about Jesus and the Samaritan woman, and this was the cool part that he showed me. The Samaritan woman, Jesus wasn't allowed to mix with the Samaritans because of culture, but there was this woman, and she was there. Jesus went to the well. He was alone because his disciples had gone off. There was a woman who came up, and he asked her for a drink of water. So they're talking, and she's in shock because she's like, you're not supposed to be talking to me. We're not supposed to be friends. And if y'all are reading, when y'all flipped over, I'm just paraphrasing. I'm sorry. So what happens is she goes down a little bit, and she is shocked that he's talking to her. And she says, why are you asking me for a drink of water? So then he tells her, he was like, you know what? This is Jesus, who knows the big picture, who knows everything about us. He tells her, he's like, you know what? I want you to go and get your husband. Go bring him over here. And she's like, about that. I don't have a husband. And this is what Jesus says. He's like, you're right, you don't. You've had a bunch. Again, I'm paraphrasing. Doesn't say it like that. He's like, you've had quite a few. And that guy you're with right now, you're not married to him. And she's like, okay. But he met her where she was. He didn't care. He was still willing right there, knowing who she was, knowing where she'd been, knowing what she'd done. He said, I'm willing to meet you right here where you're at because I love you. I want you to go, and I want you to tell the people. Tell them who I am. Tell them I'm the source. Tell them I will give them life. But the whole thing is, he was willing to meet her. He didn't care about any of those other little details that we get so caught up in. He was like, it doesn't matter. He is willing to meet you where we are. And so then that night I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so good. Because then it goes on in Scripture and it says that all of this whole town had revelation of who Jesus is because of this one woman who wasn't even supposed to be talking to Jesus. She met him. She talked with him because he met her right there, and she was willing and open to just saying, wow, what can I do with this? She went and shared it. I know for myself, I get so caught up in, oh my gosh, that was really a cool thing, God. I'm so glad you showed it to me, but I'm keeping it for myself because I'm terrified to share that with somebody else. Not this lady. She was like, oh my gosh, he knew all of those things about me. He said, it's okay, I still want to give you life. And so she went, she had to share that. So then my other favorite thing, this is like one of my all-time favorite stories, but all of the disciples, Jesus had been teaching everyone, and he told them, I want you to go out on the boat. I want you to go across the lake. I'll meet you guys there. I need to go and pray. You see, Jesus needed to get away to pray. He needed to get away to be alone. That's what I tell my kids. It's for their health that I have morning coffee and quiet time because I need to get alone. If Jesus did it, moms need to do it too. So the disciples are out on a boat, and it gets crazy. There comes a storm. The waves are ripping over the side of the boat. It's scary. There's chaos. And all of a sudden, they look out and they see somebody. They see somebody walking on water. I don't know about you guys, but I know I would probably be pretty tripped out if I saw somebody walking on water, right? So all of a sudden, it's Jesus. And they realize that Jesus is walking on water. And Peter is like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. So you see, these disciples are in chaos. They're in a storm. How many times have you been in your own storm that everything was chaotic and everything is just coming unraveled around you and you have no idea what you're going to do? What is happening? How can I get through this? And all of a sudden, Jesus, he's there. You see, in that storm, he didn't wait for them to get to the other side. He came out and he met them exactly where they were. He calms the storm because that is what he does for us. As he calms the storm, Peter's like, well, I want to walk on water too. Wouldn't you ask the exact same thing if the creator of all things is standing in front of you and he's standing on water? So Jesus says, all right, let's do this. Come to me. And Peter gets out of the boat and he starts walking on water. So Jesus met them in their storm, met them in their chaos. And not only did he meet them and he stand there with them, but he said, you know what? Just get out of the boat. Come to me. Let's do this together. So that's kind of where I've been. I've been thinking, like, all of these situations that have gone on in my life, it's the promise that he has never left. He has never forsaken me. He has not moved. Now, there have been plenty of times I have moved. I have moved off of the plan that he has for me. It doesn't change how much he loves me. It doesn't change who he is and that he has still created me for a purpose. Each and every one of you sitting in this chair, sitting in this building, has a purpose. You may have moved from what his plan is for you, but you haven't moved to the point that he will not meet you where you are. If you're sitting here and you're like, I'm not really sure about all of this Jesus stuff, I've never met him, then guess what? Today is a great day to ask him, will you meet me where I'm at? Will you show me who you are? Will you show me who all of these people keep talking about you to be? And the thing is, he just shows up. He meets you. And if you're like I was, and you've been doing this church thing, you've been doing it for a hot minute, but you're feeling like, I'm not sure what I am pouring out anymore. I haven't been filled up over the brim to where it just spills out, and I need you. I need you to fill me up. I need you to meet me where I'm at. He does. He just shows up. Part of it is, are we willing to step out of the boat? Are we willing to take that step when he says, yep, I'm going to meet you exactly where you're at? Are we willing to take our step? It's scary. I'm not even going to lie. Are you a single mom? And you're raising kids, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad they're in bed, because maybe one of them didn't do so well today, and I might have thought about, never mind, I shouldn't finish that sentence. Never mind. I'll let it go. Are you a first-time parent, and that baby, oh my gosh, they did not tell you when you were leaving the hospital that that baby was going to cry all the time. That even if you held it, they didn't like you. Even if you laid it down and tried to make it sleep, they don't want to stop crying. Nobody told you when you left the hospital that that baby was going to just scream their little head off all the time. So you're a first-time parent, and you're like, oh my gosh, what was he thinking when he let me be a parent? It's okay, because he'll meet you right there. He'll teach you how to be a mom. He'll teach you how to be a dad. If you're willing to step out of the boat. School teacher friends, oh my gosh, I pray for you every single day, because not only are you dealing with your own kids at home, but you got everybody else's kids. I'm thankful, though, for those 8 hours you have mine. Do you have anxiety like I do, where you want to shut down and you don't want to do life anymore? He meets you right there. He knows when you're on the brink of tears and that you have to pull over on the side of the road because you're not even sure where you're going. Okay, see, we're going to take a pause for 1 minute because I knew that that was going to come out. I was going to start this story with that, but my week has been so overwhelmingly anxious, and my family really likes to give me a hard time about this. But on Friday, I decided I was going to do something for myself. And I really want a green thumb, like really, really bad, but I seem to kill everything that I try to grow. Thanks. So I went to Walmart and I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm buying me some plants because I got some chickens, and I read on Pinterest that if you feed these chickens these herbs, that they'll be healthy. So I went and I got all these herbs and flowers that were good for them, and I'm so pumped. And I go out to the parking lot with my big buggy full of plants, and I'm like trying to open the tailgate. My clicker won't work, and I'm like, golly, are you kidding me? And so push the button, it won't open. So I'm like, whatever, the battery's dead. So I go to the keypad and I'm trying to type in a keypad or whatever, and it won't open, and I'm yanking on the handle, and I'm like, I didn't change my keypad code. Why won't this car open? And then I look in and I see this little Scentsy thing on their visor that I don't have in my car. And I'm like, oh, that's not my car. So I try to like back away, and then I look over here in this car, and that guy's staring at me, and I'm like, it's not my car. I swear I wasn't trying to break into it. Anyway, so then I had to roam around the parking lot and find my car. And the only reason that everybody makes fun of me is because somehow I do this on the regular. To the point that I've put children in the wrong car. Okay? So, that's why they make fun of me. But you know what? Here's the thing. Jesus is right there with me in that parking lot. He is laughing. He's got a real good sense of humor. So as I roamed around and looked for my car and wanted to cry because I was so embarrassed, I was like, whatever, this is my life. Do you ever think that? Do you ever think this is my life? The thing is, where we're at in our life and all that crazy, it doesn't define you. It doesn't mean that's who you are. The circumstances going on around you, those circumstances that he's in the middle of, they don't define you. They are not who you are. They are the things that are happening to you, that are growing you, teaching you, guiding you, encouraging you, sometimes bringing you down a little bit, but he's there in the middle of that. And that's the great thing, because he promises to never leave you, never forsake you. He promises to meet you right there. Are you going through something so heavy? And you don't tell everybody around you because you're like, one, I don't even know how to put this into words. I don't even know what's going on anymore. All I know is I'm miserable. I'm sad. I don't want to do anything anymore. I cry a lot. Maybe it's depression. I don't know. He's there in the middle of that. When we're going through the hardest things in our lives, whether it's you're losing someone, your marriage is falling apart, you've lost your job, you've lost your way, your identity, you don't know anymore. The thing is, that's where he wants to meet you. When you're unsure of how am I doing this, how am I living this life, he's going to meet you right there. He doesn't need you to wait until I do this and then I will seek you. No, he wants you in the messy. He wants you in the chaos. Just like he went to the disciples, that's what he wants from you. It's okay that we don't have it all together. I think that's sometimes part of the problem is we think I'm not this enough and I'm not that enough, so when I do this, maybe he will love me like this. That's not true. That's the enemy. That's what he wants you to believe. But Jesus meets you just like the Samaritan woman. He meets her knowing all of her sin and saying, it's okay. I need you to go and tell somebody about me. Teenagers and kids, it's hard. The world is hard. You go to school at a place that people try to always tell you, this is who you should be, this is what you should do, this is who is cool, this is who is not. Don't talk to them, don't talk over there. Wear this, wear that. Who are you? When you don't know, you sit by yourself and you say, I need you to meet me right here. And that's the thing, he does. He shows up. However it is that you need him to show up, he's there. And the thing is, you don't even have to say anything. You can just sit there. He's going to put his arm around you because he is a physical God who loves you. When our families feel like they're falling apart, when addiction wants to take over, when there's chaos, he's in that. You don't have to look a certain way for him to show up where you're at. We don't have to say, if I were better, if I could do this, then maybe he'll love me the way that he loves so-and-so. Or maybe he'll show up the way that he did over here. No, you see, that's the thing. He's going to show up to you just like he did in front of those disciples. He's going to walk out on water in a miraculous way to meet you exactly where you're at. And when he does, if you're willing to say, I don't know what to do next, he'll say, step out of that boat. I got you. That's all you got to do. I know that sounds so simple, and I'm telling you firsthand, I've had to dig in. I had to dig in and ask him, meet me where I'm at. Maybe at one time I was able to do this, but today I can't. Today I need you to meet me here. And maybe one day I was able to do this, but I can't. I don't have the strength. I don't have the energy. Sometimes I don't have the faith. But it'll meet you right there. Sometimes it's in that vulnerability, that honest moment, that he shows up. Sometimes stepping out of the boat sounds just like that. God, I don't know who I am today. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know how I've got over here. I don't know how I knew that you had a plan, and I was walking out plans for you, and I found myself over here. The thing is, he brings you back. I always tell my kids, I'm like, listen, there are rules in our home and there is guidance in our home because God has shown me a plan for you in your life. I don't know what the complete big picture is, but thankfully he does. And so today, this is what it looks like. And sometimes my kids, who are amazing, make choices. And if I've got them over here, sometimes they make choices that bring them over here. And sometimes that choice leads to the next choice and it finds them over here. So they're still a little bit further from where I thought they should be. The great thing is when we talk it out, sometimes we sit there and talk at night and we're going through and I'm having to apologize for her, the kind of mom I was that day, or having to apologize for trying to put them in the wrong car or yell at them, whatever, because I do that pretty well. But when we talk, we bring it back to the plan. And this is what God's doing. So this is why we do this, and this is why we're trying this, so that we can follow out his plan for your life. And so that is the exact same thing with my life. If I make a choice that has brought me a little bit away from the path that he has, that's okay, because he's going to meet me right where I'm at, and he's going to say, come on, let's go back. I have a plan for you. He doesn't stop pursuing you. He doesn't stop chasing after you because you are worthy. He will meet you exactly where you're at because he has purpose for you. He will chase after you in order to meet you where you're at because you have value and he has a mission for you and your life. Are you willing to hear him, accept him, and say, yes, God? I want to encourage you because I feel like it's little things sometimes. I feel like sometimes we get so overwhelmed that we're like, oh my gosh, I'm way over here and I have no idea how to get way back over here. So what's the point? Well, when you say, meet me here, he's going to show you the first thing to do. And sometimes it's so small, you're like, I'm not really sure how that's getting me back over there. But if you'll be obedient, you'll start to see that the small steps are taking you somewhere. And that sometimes, just like the lady at the well, those small steps are fixing to influence a lot more people than you had ever anticipated. And I know that you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I just do this, and I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I just work over here. That's okay. Those kids need you. Those kids' friends need you. Those people in your office, they need to see you. Those people at your school, in a classroom, they need to see the small steps. And so God isn't looking for our perfection or our performance in anything. He's looking for our obedience. When he meets you there, let's step out of that boat. Let's do something. I want to challenge you guys because I'm challenging myself and I need some accountability. If he's asking you, if you ask him and he says, I'll meet you right there, but I need you to seek me, you got to be willing to maybe read a little bit more. One verse. Let one verse soak in all day long. If you're wanting a prayer life in your home, it starts with me. And it starts with my obedience. He's there because he's already met me. And now I got to start praying. They can be little prayers because those little things are seen by those around you, and those little prayers with faith turn into big prayers. Worship more. Last night I thought it was so cool at the youth rally, one of the speakers who talked about what's your radio frequency on? And I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Because I would much rather have that frequency on something that is playing over and over in my kid's mind and my mind versus some of the other things that come across the radio. Because it starts with one verse of a song that plays over and over and over, and that becomes my anthem. So if I want to have an anthem that is radiant about God, then it has to start there. One song. I want to encourage you to encourage someone around you. Maybe that day it's your worst day ever and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to be at work. I should have called in sick, but you couldn't. Go into work and instead change the atmosphere. Tell somebody, hey, great job. Hey, you're awesome. If you're a kid and you're going to school, say hi to somebody that you might not usually say hi to. Be an encouragement because it starts with one thing. You see, when you say, God, will you meet me here? He will meet you right there. But now it's time for you to do something. Like Peter, he had to step out of that boat. So when you ask him, will you meet me here? Are you willing to take that step? Guys, I'm so thankful that God has allowed me to just share what it was that he would not let me sleep about. I wrote in my journal till 12:20 that night, and I went to bed, and I fell asleep so easy after that. Like I just fell asleep. And I knew that he was meeting me exactly where I was, exactly where I needed him to meet me. And it changes. It's different. Because the next day, I was willing to step out of the boat with one step. And every day, you're going to have to ask him over and over, meet me here, because I need you. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. Just ask him. Invite him in. Let him be your leader. Let him be your guide. I'm praying for your week this week. You will just pray with me. God the Father, I pray that who you are shows up to each and every person in this room today. I pray for an overwhelming presence of who you are, letting each and every person that is hearing this know that you are meeting them exactly where they are. There is no need for perfection. There is no need for anything other than who you created us to be. He sees our mess. He knows our chaos, God, and I'm thankful that when you see that, when you know that, you still show up. You still meet me exactly where I am. God, I pray that you will give each and every one of us the strength to step out of the boat, to take the first step to being obedient to you, to knowing who you are, to walking out our plans that you have given to each one of us. God, you are good. You are good all the time. In each and every circumstance, we know that you love us. And if we don't, God, I pray for that overwhelming feeling to know that you do. God, we honor you, we love you, and we praise you. Amen.
Thank you, Brandis. That was amazing. I just want to close this out. So if y'all will stand, we're just going to finish out with the song that we did earlier. I want to hear y'all sing. I like hearing y'all sing.